I discovered the affair when I came home early to tell my wife about my diagnosis throwaway account for all of the obvious reasons. I guess the only reason I am coming here is because in my situation and course of action does not allow me to fully disclose to those close to me. On the 1st of December, I got the news I was dreading. All of the tests have confirmed the diagnosis. I have stage 4 pancreatic cancer. So basically, this will be my last holiday season. I am okay with what is going to come. I am at peace with that. I have had a life well lived. All of my loved ones will be taken care of. I am naturally a private person, so my wife Jane is unaware of my tests. I did not want to worry her until I had answers. So I head home early to have the talk. This is not something I want to do over the phone or text. Well, as you can guess, since I am here, my life changed more than once that afternoon. When I arrived at the house, I noticed the car of one of my business partners in the drive. There was no mistaking it, flashy, expensive with a personalized license tag. To say this is out of the ordinary is an understatement. I pull up our home camera system on my phone and notice it is in privacy mode, so I let it be and drove off to my farm property. Now our camera system is for safety, and I never look at it unless there is a concern. With that said, I also love to watch for wildlife on the outside cameras. I also find it oddly satisfying to watch storms come through. So for my own enjoyment, years ago I configured a second video recorder to archive the cameras to local storage. That storage is not accessible via my phone. So when I was at the farm, I opened up my computer and looked at the other server to confirm what my gut was telling me. And sure enough, there they were, snuggling in the living room, drinking wine, dancing, then going up to the bedroom suite. Apparently they left the doors open because the microphone recorded their activities after they left the camera view. With my limited time left, I wanted answers, but I don't want the drama of a confrontation and divorce. Call me what you will. But all of my devotion and love for her left me that afternoon. I have all of the emotions that are to be expected. I know that I am not to blame. I have been a loyal, romantic, and attuned partner. I am now thinking about myself. I know what is important to me. So I called my lawyer, and we reviewed my will and our prenup. I told him what was going on. We worked on understanding how long and to what extent this affair has been going on. What has been found is disturbing, and I either clearly did not know the woman I shared decades of life with, or something in her changed. At this time, I am not going to say anything to my kids. I am going to put on a stiff upper lip and get through the holidays. Give the kids and grandkids one last holiday memory with me involved. I will be the doting father and grandfather, and then try to play the doting husband role. Some background for some of the obvious questions. AP is a widower and is not remarried. He is a business partner, but not a friend. I do not invest with friends. I never married my twins' mother. It was her choice, and I completely agree with her that at that time she made the correct decision. My kids' mother, Sarah, married a very wonderful man, Steve, when the kids were 7. Sarah and Steve never had kids of their own. I got my head out of my ass when the kids were 3. I have been very involved with them before that, but that is when I started my road to be the father I wanted to be. Sarah and I co-parented well together, and I would call Steve a friend. Sarah, Steve, and I are in our 60s. Jane is almost 60. AP is in his 50s. Jane and I are both in our first marriage. We were in our 30s when we married. What do I need? An outside outlet and release valve. If I am going to accomplish my goal, I need to vent my anger and talk through my situation. What better outlet than internet strangers? I am at peace with how and when my life will conclude. Update. First, I want to thank you all for all your support. It really has helped. I have read all of your comments, and it has given me a lot to think about. I am going to give some general information to help clarify. Wanted. So the twins are in their 40s, and the grandkids are all teens and older. Christmas is a week-long affair every year. We spend Christmas through New Year on the farm. We cut down a tree after everyone arrives. We decorate, cook, play, and celebrate as a family. Sarah and Steve have been a part of this tradition since I bought the farm. I remain steadfast in not telling anyone until after the new year. If I told Sarah, she would not be able to keep it in. I don't want to place Steve in a position to lie to his wife. I want the kids and grandkids to enjoy the week. We will have plenty of time to cry and prepare in a few weeks. Jane's presence this week will just be a small detail in the long run. Really, I don't care about her anywhere near the rest of the family. The finances are very interesting. Jane and I met and were married after we both were very established in our job and wealth. She had a good job with a great pension. She also had 2 inheritances that were in a trust. We agreed early on that we were both comfortable and we would not disclose to each other our entire worth by her insistence. We also have a prenup where any property and/or trust that predates the marriage and any income from those resources are not considered marital property. Again, on her insistence. Now I have provided both properties, housing with utilities. I purchase the travel, food, and fuel. Basically, I support her 100%. Her income and wealth is spent by herself. She purchased her car, clothes, personal travel, and cosmetic surgery. She is a very beautiful woman on the outside, but has shown she is very ugly inside. A few days after I got my diagnosis, I announced my retirement from the nonprofit. Now, knowing what I know, I noticed Jane was a bit uncomfortable. I can guess why. I will be around more often. So tomorrow is my last day of work. Now I will be focusing on spending time with the family. I gave the camera server info to my lawyer and gave him access from his office. So I don't know if they had activities again, but I would assume yes. Again, I don't care at this point. I know who I am and what is my worth, and AP is a big step down. As flashy AP is, I am low-key. I drive a 15-year-old pickup truck. I like jeans and t-shirts and coveralls in the winter. I know for a fact that AP does not have anywhere near the wealth that Jane thinks he does. How? Since the trust has invested in his business, I get quarterly financials. I don't tell anyone how much I have that is between my accountants and me. But let's just say that the trust has been growing for 30 years. I live a modest life, and there is enough there for my great-great-grandchildren to enjoy the farm and have their education paid for. Once Jane knows what she lost, that will be her reckoning. I just won't see it. December really got busy. We did our normal social rounds these last weekends. AP was at one of the parties. It was hard to not keep an eye on Jane and him. I don't think I was caught. With being so busy and wrapping up everything at the job, I have had an easier time keeping it together. Jane has not expressed anything that would lead me to conclude that she knows I know. I am not proud of this, but I still sleep in the same bed. I have been selfish with her as of late. I feel like I am using her. But she has apparently been using me for at least the better part of this year. I am not as honorable as many of you have made me out to be. I hate this small amount of deceit. So don't worry about Jane getting everything because she will not. The trust is in great hands. I have detailed instructions on how it is to be managed. Thanks to the comments, I have made plans in case my health turns for the worse sooner than I want, or if I pass unexpectedly. I have also made plans to have in-home care when it is needed. Jane will not be my caregiver. If I become incapacitated, the lawyer will tell Sarah, Steve, and the kids. Jane will be blocked from me. All important papers, valuables, and whatnots have been moved to a safe location. Finally, I have also started letters to each family member, and Jane. Those have been harder than I thought, so I wanted to update you all before all of the festivities start. I might check in during the holiday week, but if I don't, it is planned and expected. Again, thank you all. Another update. Mission accomplished. We had a great drama-free holiday week. I have made it to 2023. I apologize to anyone in advance. I find humor about my condition helps me. I am finding I am being a bit selfish currently. All of the participants dispersed yesterday afternoon. I only have a few updates because I am not going to talk about my week with my family. That is for me to cherish. Observations about my cheating wife in this week. I honestly think this is the first time she stepped out. Being with all of us this whole week seems to take a toll on her. It is funny how when you know something, a person's actions make more sense. She was secretive about her phone. She stepped out of our family gathering to get some air quite a few times. The best was when she needed to run into town, and one of the grandkids wanted to go to town also. The gymnastics she did to not take the grandkid. I have to admit that I kind of played with it by asking, why not? So the affair is continuing, with me now retired and she is asking me about my plans for the day or week. So I go ahead and tell her, and then ask her what her plans are. Later this week, I will suggest we meet up for lunch due to me being in the same area as her on our plans, just to mess with her. I guess it was true that someone said on another post, unpredictability is the cheater's worst enemy. This morning, I met with my lawyer. I had made decisions and asked him to draw up papers. I replaced my temporary will with my new permanent will. That has been signed and should not have to change again. In preparation for all hell breaking loose, I had him draw up divorce papers based on the prenup and the evidence of the affair. She gets nothing but 25% of our shared assets. Think housewares and furniture. I keep all of my liquid assets, retirement funds, and items I purchased with my own wealth. Also, if I push it, she is required to pay alimony. I have signed them and have a packet created with all of our evidence of the affair. I am holding this in case I want to use it. I sold my loan to the trust. I will allow the trustees to convert it to shares in AP's company. Speaking of the trust, I have decided how I want it managed. I will drop myself to a 1% trustee. The twins will get the majority of the trusteeship. The 4 grandkids will make up the rest. All of the grandkids' proxies will be Sarah and Steve. As each turns 24, the kids' trusteeship will move from Sarah and Steve to the grandkid. If a fraction is left over, Sarah gets the extra share warrant vote value. I have planned a meeting with the kids, Sarah and Steve, for next week. I plan on telling them everything then. They have to sign documents, and they will want to know why I am doing this. So when this is done, my personal value will be my liquid assets, personal property, and the money from the AP's loan. So in the worst-case scenario, Jane will get very little compared to the assets and value in the trust. In the next couple of weeks, I will disperse the few personal items I want to go to the kids and grandkids. Those are already at a safe location where my lawyer has access. Some of you commented on my health. Well, if I was not clear, I am not fighting this. I am letting nature take its course. So I have no ill side effects from any treatments. I did notice this week I was more easily tired out. The family noticed also. I played it off as the old man getting older. I still have a cough. The cough is what started it all. It was my tumors in the lung that led to all of the diagnoses. I just played that as a lingering corona cough. I expect to go downhill pretty fast once other issues pop up. But by that time, everyone will know. And thank you for all of your well wishes on that aspect. I am planning to spend time with the family. A large trip with all of their different obligations would be tough. That reason is why this week was so important to me. It was the last time I could be with all of them for an extended amount of time. I am thinking of a small trip for myself. We will see. I plan on spending a day one-on-one with each child and grandchild. That is my next goal. The letters are not done. Those are very difficult. I will let you all know how the meeting next week goes. Best to you all. Update. I had my lawyer, a notary, the twins, Sarah and Steve, to my farm today. The tasks I needed are done. This process has gone about as well as it could have gone. It is understandable that the family is hurt and angry. When everyone arrived and they saw my lawyer and the notary, the tension in the room was high. I asked them to just sit and listen to me, and after I finish, they are to sign the papers. After signing the documents, I will answer all questions. They all know about trust. I explained to them it was time for me to release control of the trust to them. I explained how important trust was in my life, why I started it, how it was outside of my marriage to Jane by mutual decision. I also left instructions on how I wanted them to direct and use the trust. We explained that the trust would be split between the twins and the grandchildren, with Sarah and Steve equal proxy votes for the grandkids until each of them reached the age of 24. Their trust in me was evident because they signed the documents and got them notarized. After that was done, copies were collated, and I dismissed my lawyer and the notary. I saw them out and thanked them for coming out on a Sunday. They both were gracious, as always. When I returned to the dining room, acting as a conference room, they all were quiet. My daughter broke the silence with the first question. Well, it was definitely a multi-part question or a stream of consciousness. As soon as she stopped, I started with my health. I explained the facts of my diagnosis. I listened to them making plans on how we are going to fight this, and this is where I stopped them. I explained the odds. I told them I already had a second opinion. Then I told them what you all already know. I am not going to seek treatment. I am going to let nature take its course. We spent the next hour to an hour and a half arguing. My daughter left the room a few times. Sarah had to go get her. While they were gone, Steve, my son, and I had a heart-to-heart. They understand where I am coming from. They might not agree, but they understand. The consensus is that Sarah and my daughter will come around. After all, this calmed down, and I knew the next question was coming. When did I find out? And I told them. And now, there was another round of anger and sadness. I explained that I wanted one more holiday week where I was not a dead man walking, that I was selfish. I wanted this diagnosis to be after the holidays. I don't want it to taint their holidays for the rest of their lives. My daughter, sensing there was still more, went all police detective. She was not going to leave the room until all were out. She asked, how in the hell did Jane not tell her? That is when I dropped the last bomb. I told them exactly the same account of events that I did in my first post. That is the first time I truly saw the fire of anger in my daughter's eyes. I then told them, she to this day does not know I know. I basically answered the same questions, plots, and etc. that you all suggested, so I guess you all prepped me well. In the end, I told them I valued them way more than Jane. For me, I just want to spend the rest of my days in peace not worrying about Jane. I had to explain my actions during the holiday week. They also pieced together her steps outside for air and the trip into town where she did not want to bring the grandkid. They were worried I did this all alone. I told them I have some social media friends that helped me through the roughest of this time. I refused to tell them where and how. They can learn later, but I still want this space for myself. The emotions were really raw, and we have been talking off and on as a group for a few hours, but I told them I needed to go back and talk about the trust. They understand that the trust will be very helpful in not allowing Jane to obtain my hard-earned wealth, that it protects them, and that is why she is not part of this meeting. With that said, I then needed to share the financials of the trust. I am pretty sure that they all saw the trust as a tax dodge or just a way to protect assets in a marriage where the kids are from another woman. They were not prepared for me to share the finances. As I started to go through the assets and the balance sheets, the room just fell silent. Then there was one question. Why did you work so hard those years when you had this much? I explained my philosophy of personal finance, something they have heard many times before and taken to heart. But I told them that I lived off the trust all of these years. I put them through college with that trust. I made time in my life for them with that trust, and I was able to work for a nonprofit for basically free because of that trust. And if there is any example I want to outlive them and their children, is to use this trust to do better for others, and not to just write a check for a charity here and there, but to work for something they believe in. In my years with this nonprofit, I have done so much more in training others and building relationships than just writing a check cannot do. I am not happy that today, everyone's lives at that table changed in so many ways, good and bad, because of me. It was not the way I wanted it to happen, but it is done. They know all of it. I have begged and pleaded that they let me deal with Jane, not to talk about the trust with anyone. We will run as status quo for now. When I get sicker, then things will change. They all have agreed. We spent the next few hours making a meal, talking, crying, laughing, and breaking into smaller groups. They all left about an hour ago, but I expect the twins to come back. I know they will let their spouses in on what is going on. That is just the way they are. And I love my two in-laws' children very much. I knew that last night was my last quiet night. I feel a weight lifted but replaced with another weight of worry. Thank you all for reading. Your thoughts and prayers are so valuable to me. Again, tell your loved ones how you feel and give them a hug. Just a quick update. I was surprised by a visit from one of Jane's girlfriends. She is about the same age as Jane. Her name is Carol and was with Jane last week on Girls' Night. In fact, the Girls' Night was at Carol's house. If you read my comments, you would know that last week Jane came home very intoxicated. She used a rideshare. Carol is an old friend of my WW. I guess being married for over 2 decades, WW has forgotten I introduced her to Carol. Carol's parents were friends of my parents. Well, I guess my unpredictability has contributed to Jane being unstable. And last week's girls' night, Jane reached a breaking point. She got so intoxicated she confided in Carol about her affair. Apparently, she just kept talking, even after Carol told her to stop. Carol got so angry at her. As Carol kept condemning Jane, Jane just kept trying to defend her actions while continuing to lay out an endless stream of details. The next day, Carol reached out to Jane. Jane apparently did not remember anything from the night before. Carol summarized Jane's confession. Well, Jane completely denied that she is having an affair, that she did not say those things, and that Carol is mistaken. Carol told Jane she is full of shit and has a week to come clean, or she will tell me herself. And since Jane continues to deny that she said anything, I got my visit with Carol. So over coffee, I got the abbreviated accounting of Jane's confession. Carol was expecting me to be devastated. I surprised her when I told her I already knew. I asked her who else was around when Jane made this confession. Carol was the only one else in the house. I asked Carol who else she had told. That offended her. She told me that she would not spread something like that before telling me. I apologized. I explained to her that I had my own timeline for wanting to deal with Jane, and adding others would complicate my plans. And I had to ask. Carol was understanding. I asked her, as a favor to me, not to mention it to anyone and allow Jane to think she believed her. Carol agreed with my first request but said, the second part doesn't feel right. I asked her to try. I told her I would be okay. Carol said that anything else I need, all I have to do is ask. I know that I will have to make another apology when Carol finds out about my health, but I will deal with that another day. So I am going to confront Jane tomorrow. We have a regular date night, and I plan on calmly telling her what I know, my condition, and how I am going to spend the rest of my life without her. I hope the public setting will keep the drama to a minimum, going as planned or a total disaster. I will update sometime this weekend. My plan is after the confrontation to give her what I know, asking her to not contact me or my family. We will see how it goes. Update, Mike Tyson said. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Yes, every plan does not go exactly as you vision. Mine is not exempt from this reality. I will take a moment to set the table of my plan for you. Jane and I have a weekly date night, and we generally use the same restaurant, so much so that we have a regular table. It is in the back, still public, but away from the high energy near the bar. I decided that this would be the place I would confront her. I planned to do it after the end of dessert. I got my lawyer and his wife's reservations at the same time. I gave our server the payment for both of our party's meals before we began. She has been our server for years. I had Carol on call to help Jane after I left. My plan was to end the meal with a conversation about our relationship. I wanted to record it. Then I would confront her, tell her about how I know, my diagnosis, and the plan for what I want, and give her a letter asking her to not contact me or my family or come to the farm. I would have the letter witnessed. I would also leave her a briefcase full of evidence along with the divorce papers, then get up and walk away. I expected her not to make a scene to protect her social status. I did record the conversation. She gushed about how great our relationship has been over the years. She talked about how great we are as a team. I asked her if I treat her right, have ever abused her, etc. She said, "Of course not." Then I asked her why she cheated on me. She stated that she does not know what Carol told me, but that she is wrong. I told her I had already known before Carol told me. At that point, everything I think Jane had prepared to counter this conversation left, and so did the color on her face. All she could do was ask, "What?" I then told her to let me get through this without interruption, and she shook her head in agreement. She went from a confident and prideful woman to a woman with the deer in the headlights look. All she could do was nod. I then explained how I came home after my meeting with my doctor. I was rushing home to have the most difficult conversation with the one person I wanted to talk to. I explained that when I drove up, I saw his car. I then checked the cameras and saw they were in privacy mode. I decided then to go to the farm. I told her that I still had footage, and she almost interrupted to ask how, but I just put up my hand to remind her to let me finish. I told her about my diagnosis and plans not to fight the disease. I saw the heartbreak in her eyes and I got angry. How can she feel sorrow for me? But I moved forward. I then signaled the waitress and she went over and got my lawyer. They both came to our table. My lawyer handed me a briefcase and a folder with a letter. I told her that I don't want her to contact me or my family or come to the farm after I leave tonight. I signed the letter and asked the server to witness it. The server and lawyer then watched me give the letter to Jane. I then dismissed them. I then concluded by giving the briefcase to Jane. I told her I know much more than she expects. I was totally destroyed. That there are divorce papers in there already signed by me, and she can sign them and start the divorce proceedings. I told her I don't expect to survive a contested divorce. That as long as I am alive, she can stay at home in town. I will be at the farm. I will not see her after tonight. I don't want to hear any excuses. I have called Carol to help her home. In true fashion, Jane kept her composure in public. She just uttered a quick "but." I just reminded her I am leaving and I am done. I went to the server and gave her a generous tip, found the owner, and apologized for not giving him a heads up. As I am leaving, I see my son at the door with Carol. Carol passes me with a quick smile, then a concern in her eyes for Jane. My son grabs my truck, and his wife drives me to the farm. My son and his wife stayed with me Friday night. I finally got them to go home at midnight. I went to sleep with a great sense of relief, but with a renewed feeling of loss. But I was able to accomplish the task I needed to do. The family came to the farm on Saturday to make sure I was okay. I felt a bit coddled, but it was a good day until Carol came by in the afternoon. She said that Jane fell apart Friday night, but I guess contacted her AP on Saturday. After the conversation, Jane realized she was just being used by the AP and was really in a bad state. Carol made sure to tell me that Jane did not ask her to reach out to me, but she feels that if I could talk with Jane for a bit, then it could give Jane the strength to keep her out of my life. Carol knows how to frame her requests. I reluctantly agreed to a 2-hour discussion at the farm with Jane. I would have someone there for me, and Jane could choose someone to be there for her. We will have a civil conversation. I will not accept being blamed, minimization, or blame shifting. The purpose of the meeting will be for her to get answers for how to move forward. That meeting happened this morning. Jane picked Carol, I don't know why, maybe damage control, and I chose my daughter. I wanted it to be as comfortable for Jane just so we don't have to repeat this again. I entered the meeting with a steadfast direction and goal of having Jane out of my life. The meeting was as expected. Jane cried, apologized, and tried to minimize the affair. I was not having any of it. I laid out that she will have a place to live until my death. Then, the house decision will be on the trustees. I explained that she will not see anything from my estate or from the trust, but she has her 6-figure pension and her trust, so she will be just fine. I have to rant about something, she said. Why won't you fight for me or us? I almost lost my temper at her, but I just responded with, I just don't care about you or us anymore. That kind of destroyed her. Here I am going to express my anger. This is the mind of a selfish cheater. All they think about is themselves. That even after destroying someone, they expect to have enough value in that person's eyes to fight for. Screw that. I was not worth fighting for against her desires. Or greed. F her. Sorry for the rant. Jane gets the answers she asked for, but in hindsight did not want them. I don't want another meeting. I feel continuing the meetings just distracts me from what I want to do. Carol and Jane leave, but Carol comes back a couple of hours later. She and I had a quick talk. Apparently, AP had received notice from the trustees that they are going to convert the loan into shares of his company, and since the trust will be the majority owner, they are asking for a full forensic audit. My daughter with the MBA is not wasting any time. Well, I guess when Jane went to him for comfort, she realized what I already expected. He was using her to see if she could buy the loan from me. There were offhanded comments in the recordings that I suspected he was up to something. Well, with the paperwork filed, AP knowing I sold the loan to the trust, and Jane no longer in my life, her usefulness to him is gone, and he let her know. Apparently, Jane also confided in Carol that her trust is exhausted. She will only have the income from her pension. She saw life with AP to be more glamorous than with me. She truly thinks his net worth is more than mine. He drives nice cars, eats in fancy restaurants, flies us first class, while my husband played on his farm, drove an old truck, and we flew in economy class. That she was planning on divorcing me when he expressed his undying love and desire to marry her. It disgusts me that she is this greedy and shallow. I won't see it, but I expect my family will tell her how much I was worth after my death. I am so glad that her true colors were shown now so I could deal with her and spare my family from her. Then Carol did something that was totally unexpected and threw me off guard. She told me that since I am no longer encumbered, if I need companionship to give her a call. I challenged her and asked why, with my diagnosis, why would you or any woman want to spend time with me? There is nothing long-term. She responded that just because Jane is an ignorant slut and did not know what she had, does not mean any divorcee or widow would not line up to spend what time I have left with me. That I am a hell of a man, and any time with me would be cherished, and I would have quite a few lady callers lining up, and she might as well be first in line. I asked her, but most won't know Jane and I are. Separated? She said Jane does not want the social groups to know, but that she and Sarah will make sure her story is out. I was polite and told her I would let her know. She smiled and gave me a kiss on the cheek. I thought about it after she left. but I'm pretty sure I do not want that complication in my life right now. I have left quite a bit out, but that is the highlight. I am doing okay. It has been a roller coaster. I need a few days of peace and quiet. The social groups will know soon. Both the breakup of my marriage and also my diagnosis. I will now have an endless stream of people wishing me well. I knew I could not delay it forever, but I don't want to be treated differently. However, life is what it is. Time to start dinner and relax this evening. Again, thank you all for all of your support. I will try to go back and respond to all of your messages. They mean so much to me. Update first, I am doing okay. I am still above ground and above room temperature. Every day on my feet is a blessing. My coughing is a bit worse. I am experiencing some discomfort. I notice I am getting winded a bit easier. Overall, though, a great week. Let's start with Jane. She has gone to ground. Her status in the community has crashed hard and swiftly. Once it was out, she was politely asked to resign from any of her leadership roles. Most of her circle has judged her harshly and has come right out and asked her if she chased their husbands. She has tried to reach out a few times. I have not responded. A couple was through proxies. I just asked the person to tell her I have said what I needed to say and I know all I need to know. I really don't care if she needs closure. Why do I need to worry about her selfish need for that? She knows how I feel because I told her. Some of the details of the affair. They have been going on for at least 6 months. They took 3 trips together, one of which they played the newlyweds. Another was a couple celebrating a 20-year wedding anniversary, and the last that they met on vacation staying at the same hotel. I guess role-playing was a bit of their dynamic. She used my house because she was comfortable there, but also the house is set back from the road and passers-by cannot see the cars in the drive. She also bought herself a second car and stored it in town in a parking garage. She apparently swapped cars when she went to AP's house, so no one would recognize her car. She was very concerned about how this would be viewed by anyone in her social circle. Maybe so I would not catch her. Her actions alone show how much effort she went to for the affair with the AP. All of these efforts alone solidify in my mind how I am feeling and how I dealt with the affair. I have no regrets about what I have done. The drunken confession to Carol was only partly due to my unpredictability. Apparently, as soon as the notice of my sale of AP's loan to the trust was received, he started to distance himself from Jane. I guess from the pressure of almost getting caught and AP starting to not be as interested in her, she got drunk and let it all out to Carol. You know what happens after that. It is pretty clear to me that AP had alternative motives for his participation in the affair. This does not excuse Jane in one small bit. It just makes Jane more pathetic. It appears that AP wanted Jane's help on his loan with me, and Jane wanted the flasher life with AP's money. It is interesting how ugly people attract each other. If all of us decent people just allow the despicable to pair up together, we can find better partners. Sorry to all of those out of a sense of devotion you work on reconciliation. It was not for me. AP is not happy about the intentions of my daughter. It appears he will be trying to stop it in court. All he has to lose is more money. I have heard rumors that he has tried to raise money from other investors to pay off this loan. But unfortunately for him, the news of his actions has already started to circle around my business acquaintances. Remember, when I said you invest in persons, not companies, well, there are not many who want to invest in him. I don't know what my daughter has planned for his company, but it employs quite a few people, so she will work hard to make sure it continues just for them. I think she is worried AP has something to hide in the company's books. For the employees, I hope it is not anything that cannot be corrected. Family time has been great. I went to a high school basketball game with my family this week. I also scheduled a poker night. That was great. I had some old friends, my son, and my grandson at the game. The grandson got to see how old-school men sat around telling tales and just enjoyed a night together. I hope to get a few more of these in. We have eaten as a family 3 times this week. Carol did come over one night and brought dinner. We ate and talked, but I kept her at arm's length. I am still not comfortable letting her in. Chores on the farm comfort me. I walk the fences, check on the animals, check on the employees, and help with equipment maintenance. Knowing that this farm will stay in the family and continue to run fills me with peace. A part of me lives beyond my time here. I have also had a number of friends and acceptances stopping by. Someone mentioned a living wake, and I think this is what they meant. I am encouraging anyone to come out and see me. I like spending time with these folks, even if it might be the last time. Thank you for suggesting that. Thank you all for your support. It really does help. Update, I am still here. But it has been a bit rough. I am now home, but I did spend a few days in the hospital. I was found unconscious but was still breathing, so they took me to the ER. I do have a do not resuscitate order, but I never died. I have always hated hospitals. But now with my diagnosis, I really hate the hospital. I don't want to die there. I have been home for a while now. I can no longer drive off the farm. Really, they don't want me to drive on the farm, but I am determined to keep doing my chores and seeing the sunrise and sunset as long as I can. I also have full-time home healthcare workers, or as I call them, babysitters. But I am not going to fight with the family on that one. So basically, I don't remember anything until I woke up in the hospital. Most of my family and Carol were in the room. I was stable by then, and the doctors just wanted to observe me for a day or two, and of course run more tests to be sure. I had either my twins, Sarah, or Carol with me for almost the entire time. There was one night when no one was with me, and I woke up with Jane in my room. I guess she pulled the wife card on a duty nurse that did not know not to let her in. I was tired, but she was playing the sweet and devoted wife. I don't know why. Then when I realized she was holding my hand and stroking my head, I pulled away. She was hurt. She then started the new refrain of being so sorry. She did not mean anything she said to him. She was trying to use him, etc. I just sat there, not engaging. This upset her. She demanded that I talk to her. She was just loud enough to catch the nurse's attention. The nurse noticed Jane's demeanor and my uncomfortableness. The nurse was smooth. She tells Jane to wait outside because she needs to perform some BS checks. Once Jane was out of the room and the door was closed, the nurse asked me if I was okay. I told her that Jane was my ex-wife and there should be notes for her not to be allowed. She apologized and asked me what she wants me to do to limit my stress. I asked her to call my emergency contacts. She did, and in about 45 minutes, Sarah, my daughter, and Carol walked into the room. By then Jane is back and still spewing nonsense, but at a very quiet level. Once Jane sees them, she knows that she needs to leave. I quietly ask her to just go. None of the other patients deserve her making a scene, to stop thinking about herself and just leave. I am very thankful that she quietly leaves, but she first gives me a quick peck on the forehead. I recoiled a bit, but if I have to accept that for the peace of the other patients, so be it. The women in my life profusely apologized to me. Honestly, I cannot be mad at them. They have their own lives. They all figured out a schedule to make sure that I was not left alone again. And I am sure my daughter thanked the nurse for calling them, while at the same time letting the staff know her anger for letting Jane in when they had specific instructions to the contrary. This event just shows me that Jane is like a drowning person. She is just grabbing for anything. I am not. Special in her eyes. She just sees me as something that she can use to keep afloat. After every contact with Jane, I just see how much darker and black her soul is. AP is still as much of a jackass as he was before. His accounting department has seen where the wind is blowing, and in meetings with my daughter, pretty much gave her an entire picture. There is no criminal conduct by AP in his business. It is clear that he was using every perk and loophole to increase his income over his base pay at the expense of the bottom line. So when my daughter takes control, he will realize a 60% reduction of value to him from the company. And that really pisses him off. I have a feeling she might just outright fire him and move him to a silent minority owner role. So his flashy lifestyle is going to hit a brick wall. He has threatened lawsuits but has not brought any action yet. I think his credit and/or reputation in the area is shot to hell. Carol has been a more permanent fixture in my life. I have to say I don't mind the company and companionship. Maybe she is wearing me down. She has been staying over several days a week. I hope to bounce back sooner than later. But since I cannot drive anymore, I am going to have to lean on others more. This is uncharted waters for me. Carol has been eagerly volunteering to support me in this area. And before you ask, no, there is nothing physical between us other than sitting close together. Thank you all for your continued support. Daughter's first update. I'm sorry to have to tell you all. My dad passed away this past week. I have been reading his posts and responses as much as I can for the past few days. I hear him so clearly in his posts and responses. One of his requests was to give you your letter from him, my Reddit family. Well, if you are reading this letter, you know that my time here is at an end. As all of you had suggested, I had written letters to all of my family members and also created videos for them as well. While answering your posts, I started referring to you all as my Reddit family. That got me thinking that I needed to write one final letter. That letter is to all of you. I want to thank you all for your support and suggestions. This short time has been so important to me and will clearly be important to my family long after I am gone. You have helped me achieve my final gift to myself and to my family. That last Christmas week as a family. Without having somewhere to vent and gain support, I would have had to turn to my family. And doing that would have meant abandoning my goal. My family might not see it as a gift right now, but they will in the future. I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed making those little videos. My family will have another small piece of me, and that is thanks to you all. I would not have done any of those silly little videos without your suggestions and encouragement. Honestly, I would not have even thought of it. I do have one request for all of you. My family will be going through many emotions. I know that part of putting my story out there is for you all to want a conclusion. Please allow my family to grieve and keep the request for updates to an acceptable minimum. I have asked them to give you this letter, and if they feel they could, to give a final update on Jane. That final update is up to them. I have asked them. I just ask you all to be patient. Finally, I wish you all the best. All of the love I can provide from the great beyond. Remember, none of us are promised tomorrow. Know yourself and be good to those around you. I hope none of you suffer the road I have to walk, but if you do, I will in any way I can walk it with you. Remember, you all are worth so much. Never let anyone tell you anything different. I will send as many virtual hugs as I can from wherever I end up. Saying thank you at times feels so inadequate, but it is the words I have right now. Thank you. I hope we meet in the future, just not too soon. Daughter's second update. I want to start by thanking all of you for what you have done for my dad. I have read everything on his profile multiple times. I am glad this piece of him continues. I will leave it up as long as Reddit allows. Just to make it clear, I am the daughter. Some of you assumed that my brother posted his letter in the last post, but that was me as well. I am glad Dad left you all the letter. He got to say what he wanted to say. I just want to talk about Dad today. I really miss him. I regret all of the times I decided to do something else and not go and spend time with him. I am angry that he did not fight the disease, but I also love him for his dignity and how he spends his last days. Reading through his posts, I saw his determination and his love for us and the focus on his desires. I know that this is just life and part of the grieving process, but it still occupies my thoughts. I am proud to be his daughter. I am who I am in no small part because of him. I have a healthy family, career, and life because of him. And in his final weeks, he taught me so much about life and family that I thought I already knew. We all are struggling, but also cherish each other so much more. And that is what he wanted. So happy Father's Day, Dad. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Okay, on to the updates. Dad did not suffer as others with his diagnosis do. He passed quietly in his sleep. Dad had prearranged that no matter what his final moments were, he wanted an autopsy. He did not want his disease or death to be used by Jane to contest any of his arrangements. He had made arrangements and paid for it out of his estate. It was just like him to plan for everything. It turns out that he died of a heart attack. So I take solace with all of the pain he had to deal with. There was some mercy in the end. Per his wishes, he was cremated. Some of his ashes were placed with a headstone in an old cemetery on the farm. The rest of his ashes were spread while planting this spring. He got his wish to be part of the land he loved so much. We had the memorial on the farm, so Jane was nowhere to be found. The funeral home had arranged for security. So if Jane tried to come in, none of the family was any wiser. One idea that Dad kept trying to sell us on was having all of us move to the farm. He had already plotted out home sites. His hope was that we would all come live on the land when he retired. He had been talking about that for at least 10 years, and we all just humored him, but did not take it seriously. Looking back, we did not think Jane would ever live on the farm permanently. And now, knowing what we know, I am so angry with myself to allow that woman to have so much influence. Well, starting this year, we will be building new homes on the farm. So far, my husband and I, and my brother and his wife, will both be moving to the farm. We have a very lovely site picked out. Mom and Steve, at our urging, are going to move into Dad's house. It just seems right. We all want to be closer to each other. As for Jane, I thought I knew what a pariah was, but seeing Jane's world crumble around her has shown me the true definition. She has looked like she has aged 20 years in months. Her personality has completely changed. She contested the will and the trust assignment, but that was quickly dealt with. She did not succeed. She did get their shared assets, but Dad had already given away the items that he wanted. The biggest issue was the house in town. It was Dad's before their marriage, and she had no claim on it. She begged us if she could inherit it. Dad did not care about that house. It was a tool for him. And I am not ashamed to admit, in one of the bitchiest moments in my life, I told her if she changed her last name back to her maiden name, I would give her the house. The value of that house is far less than that woman not having my dad's last name. She took the offer. I cannot see her staying. I expect her to sell the house and leave. We will see. The AP is long gone. After we had the company valued for the exchange of the loan, the trust ended up owning 80% of the company. We arranged a party we trusted to make him a generous offer for his now 20%. He took it and ran. We have not heard a word from him in months. If he would have focused on strengthening his company instead of going after Jane, he would have been fine. I don't. Think he has learned this life lesson, and I really don't care. Our partner and we have chosen a new CEO, and the company is on its way to rebuilding. Carol was given a 1% in the trust. We will take care of her as Dad would have wanted, and she has been a constant figure in our family and will continue to be considered part of our family for what she did for our dad. Again, we all want to thank you for all the support you offered him. We think of you all often for what you did for him. Here's the daughter's final update. To my father's Reddit family, we are in 2024. This will be the first year of my life without my father, and that weighs heavy on me. I wanted to stop in and give you all an update on my father's family. You all already know that we celebrated our week-long celebration of the holidays that my father so cherished. While bittersweet, the week was very good. Dad has succeeded in bonding us all as a family, and that included Carol. Her romantic, for lack of a better word, time with my father when he needed the most means so much to us. He left us all letters for this year, and one final present for each of us. They were thoughtful and brought us to tears. One last act that he entrusted to Carol, though I expect that there are letters for the grandkids at all of their major events. The first one came about at last spring's high school graduation. The home building is progressing. This year, I started to realize what Dad loved about this farm, the cycles of the seasons, the cycle of life that is present here. I understand a bit more about his decisions last year. While I still don't agree, I better understand. I have also started watching the sunrises and sunsets at Dad's spots. Not as religiously as he did at the end, but just another anchor between him and me. Jane's life has not gone well. In the fall, she suffered a stroke. It was caught early enough and she survived. She is currently still in a care center doing rehab. She has regained rudimentary speech, but it is still tough for her. She is still working on walking again. She has a very long road ahead of her. Her health issues have gained her a bit of sympathy from her social circles. Even Mom and Steve, as well as Dad's grandkids, have put aside their hurt and pain and looked in on her. I am not that charitable as of now and may never be. I do not have much information on the AP. He has disappeared from my business circles. The only morsel I have is that the company did receive an inquiry letter from a bankruptcy law firm. So far, we have not seen any official filings. As for the company, without his leadership and financial anchor, the company is in the black, and we got the debt manageable and did give every employee a nice bonus. I want to thank all of you again for what you did for my father. I am sorry for not responding to any DMs or responding to any comments. It has been difficult enough to just give these updates, and I expect this update to be my last. You all have my gratitude.